we've seen that we can act faster without the EU. It's once again the EU's slow, sclerotic and overly bureaucratic processes that tie it up in red tape and hold back a vaccine that could liberate its economies and wider societies. We were told that without our hand being held by the vast might of the Brussels bloc would fail. Hello and welcome to Reasons UK with me, Darren Grimes. Well folks, it looks like it's time for a pint with, of course, that necessary prerequisite, a Scotch egg, as our substantial meal to justify having a pint in these uncertain times. Because the UK's medicines regulator has given the green light to the Pfizer/BioNTech jab, and sounds this morning like the UK is continuing to stand strong in defending its negotiating position in its negotiations with the European Union. Last week we found out, it was a bit of a scare for Brexiteers, that Dominic Cummings had been replaced by a former George Osborne advisor, and it worried many Brexiteers who fear that, without Dominic Cummings, the mastermind behind the Vote Leave campaign, Boris Johnson and his government might well cave to the EU's demands. And it's important to just reflect on how unreasonable these demands actually are. Just last week, we found out from RTE News that the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, proposed that between 15% and 18% of the fish quota caught in UK waters by EU fleets will be restored to the UK under a free trade agreement. Are you having a laugh, Mr. Barnier? They do realise, right, it's not in their gift to restore the rights of our own waters back to our own struggling fishermen. They're also making demands on the so-called level playing field. And to illustrate this point, Michel Barnier posted a photo of himself from a football pitch in London whilst doing a negotiating round here in the UK, saying that he went looking for level playing fields. He got that really wrong. Football is a competitive sport in which both sides have an equal chance to score and an impartial referee. There's not much comparison between it and what Brussels is demanding. They want us to refuse to compete with better players than their own and to decide the referee themselves from Brussels. It's interesting, isn't it, though, that the EU, the Euro fanatics here at home, whose identity seems to become a blue flag with gold stars, hold their own country in such contempt that they can't see just how unreasonable the EU's demands actually are on both our territorial waters and the level playing field. Pretty sad if you ask me. But I'm delighted to learn that Michel Barnier remains disappointed in his briefing to EU ambassadors today. He says the lack of progress in the Brexit talks on level playing field and fisheries mean that our negotiators for once are refusing to allow them to place us over a barrel and tan our arses. And on fishing, it absolutely must mean that we have access to our own waters on our own terms. And yes, whilst we might be able to sell a bit of access to EU boats, it's on our terms. And on economic fair play, they mean the UK mustn't be free to decide its own economic future. We say we absolutely bloody must. And on governance, they mean their courts must still have jurisdiction. We say they absolutely mustn't. And if there's no progress, it's down to Brussels' own intransigence on these issues. They're not treating us like they would any other independent sovereign nation state, that like the likes of Canada or South Korea or Japan, which they all have free trade agreements with. That's all we're asking for. A bargain, typical off-the-shelf free trade agreement. So I don't know about you, but I urge Boris Johnson and his government and its advisers to stand by their position, to continue to stand up for their voters that trusted them to deliver on this, and for our national interest. And that national interest point, by the way, is highlighted perfectly, beautifully, chef's kiss, in the UK becoming the first Western nation to grant emergency use authorization of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. The FT reported that regulatory delays leave the EU straggling behind the UK and the US. Because you see, in 2020, it's smaller, nimbler nation states that can act faster than these vast supranational organisations that win out, saving billions in lost GDP. And that isn't to say that EU member states couldn't do the same thing, which has been pointed out by those in the EU. They could, but in the European Medicines Agency and EU politicians, they've said that the EU should not copy the UK. Individual member states should not copy what the UK has done. Because the EU's EMA is actually encouraging companies to use its centralised procedure and countries to use this centralised procedure even when they don't have to. And it disproves all of those saying that we would be at the back of the queue for pharmaceuticals in seeking authorisation for new medicines. We've seen that we can act faster without the EU. It's once again the EU's slow, sclerotic and overly bureaucratic processes that tie it up in red tape and hold back a vaccine that could liberate its economies and wider societies. We were told that without our hand being held by the vast might of the Brussels bloc would fail. I and the 17.4 million disagreed. We argued that in the modern world, it is those nimble nation states and cooperation that will actually lead the way. And on this vaccine response time, I think Brexit's been vindicated, folks. I really, really do. And we've had more good news, let's not forget, on the Brexit front. The Sun's Harry Cole reports that the paper has found out that the UK government will begin the abolition of the cruel live animal shipments from today, a ban only made possible by Brexit because under strict EU single market rules that guarantee free movement of goods, no member state can ban livestock between transported across borders whilst being alive. But with Britain finally cutting ties with the Brussels bloc, the controversial process will be outlawed, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Boris Johnson said that he would unveil these plans and they would mean that this barbaric trade can't still go on. Every year, thousands of live calves being sent overseas for slaughter, and some of them enduring nightmare journeys as far as North Africa, jammed together in the dark, terrified. It's horrible, horrible stuff. So Boris is right on this. It's cruel, and I reckon animal-loving Britain will be supported by even the most fervent Remainers, as well as the 17.4 million that voted for Brexit in these moves. And Brexit even seems to have won the support of the Labour Party, folks. Even the architect of the second referendum campaign, of the Labour's second referendum campaign, Sir Keir Starmer, has said that Labour might back a Brexit deal. Now, I know they think we Brexiteers are thick as mints, but we're not going to forget in a hurry, are we, that Sir Keir Starmer and his merry band of Remainers for years did all they could, hand in hand with John Burgo, to overturn our biggest vote. We're not fools, Sir Keir. So, folks, I say this, things are looking pretty bloody good for little old Blighty, aren't they, at the minute? And let's hope Boris keeps it that way, keeps his nerve, keeps his mettle, even without Dominic Cummings. Gets either a really good deal or has the courage to just say, look, no, we are going to be a sovereign independent nation that can react in ways in which the EU cannot to crises that demand that small nimbleness that the UK has demonstrated in the pursuit of being able to verify this vaccine that will save billions of pounds and lives. A good day for Blighty, a good day for Brexit. I'm Darren Grimes for Reasoned UK.